Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and you're welcome to the State of the Nation on Njenje Media TV. Tonight, we will turn our spotlight on a matter that cuts to the very heart of our democracy and national unity: citizenship, land, and the politics belonging in Nigeria. In recent week, a controversial and unsigned document circulated under the banner of the so-called Yoruba Elders Progressive Council, YEPC, claiming that Lagos must act to prevent strangers from taking over. The document called for discriminatory land policies, ethnic restrictions, and an extraordinary definition of belonging. Our guest tonight, Dr. Bolaji O. Akinyemi, a Yoruba elder, a Democrat, and an outspoken defender of constitutional order. He raised an issue, a strong rebuttal describing the YEPC position as cowardly, dangerous, and un-Yoruba. As he reminds us, Lagos is not a tribal empire, it is a federated state within the Federal Republic of Nigeria, governed by law and not tribal laws. We will interrogate the roots of these debates, the dangers of ethnic politics, and the pathway towards protecting both heritage and unity without undermining citizenship. The topic for tonight's conversation is Lagos, land, and the law. Defending citizenship against tribal politics. Dr. Akinyemi, it is an honor to have you with me this evening on Njenje Media TV.
The pleasure here is mine, Mazi. Always a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for agreeing to have this conversation. You know, this conversation was planned on the back of a rebuttal. When I saw your rebuttal, when I published it, and there is always a mistake, and that's how our path crossed. When I was looking for Professor Akinyemi, and I reached out to you, you pointed me because somebody shared your contact saying that you are Professor Akinyemi, but eventually, we got talking, and has it ever happened that you've been mistaken with their professor of politics, Professor Akinyemi?
Well, I have always been Bolaji Akinyemi, even though my name seems to be a compound name, sort of. Ahmed Akinyemi Bolaji Bushe. So at this stage, I needed to cut it short, and so I adopted the Bolaji Akinyemi. And my first daughter is she's 28, and she's going to be getting married in November, and she has bear the name all her life. So it's not something new. It's not something we're just coming into. The first embarrassment, so to say, not to me, but to the respected Professor Bolaji Akinyemi, happened when I wrote the first article about my first article on Bola Ahmed Tinubu, which was titled Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the Fall of an Empire at the Lekki Toll Gate. That was my reaction to what happened at the Lekki Toll Gate. And interestingly, somehow, the now president attention was called to the article by one of his many men, Steve Akoni. And according to Steve's narration, they were reading the article together until they got to a point when they couldn't swallow the pills therein. And his principal had to put across to Professor Bolaji Akinyemi and asking him, Egbon, you have access to me. Why in the world will you vomit a thing like this? And then the respected professor said, well, I am sorry, there's another Bolaji Akinyemi in town. And oftentimes when he writes, people accuse me of being the writer or the author of things emanating from him. And that was the first time the respected professor had to do a video, dissociating himself from Bolaji O Akinyemi. I remember I watched that video several times and I was laughing. And Prof, for the first time on record, said his name is Akinwande B. Akinyemi, and I just laughed. One of my old mates in secondary school called me and said, "You have not changed from being a naughty boy. How dare you strip the Baba we have known as Bolaji Akinyemi of his name?" I said, "But you also have known that had been my name since our growing up days, So I have had to experience that several times. Then at the time when I wrote an article, back to back on Pastor Tunde Bakare, one of the respected fathers of faith in Lagos, had to call for a meeting between me and Pastor Tunde Bakare. His own opinion was that Pastor Tunde, the way this boy is going, I doubt if the prophecy of you being the 16th president will ever come to pass. This boy might stop you from becoming the president because of the things that I was writing at that time. And so when at the meeting, he called Professor Bolaji Akinyemi and said, "The little naughty Bolaji Akinyemi who's causing you sleepless night is here with me, And for the first time, I spoke with Prof on phone. It's not impersonal. It's not impersonal. It's just that Nigeria is too dear to some of us to allow all of the things that are going on, continue without a check.
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much. That was a very striking introduction, and how the mistaken identity came about. And when you wrote this rebuttal, a lot of people, associated that to Professor Bolaji Akinyemi. Obviously, on reading it, understanding the things you've written before, I thought to myself, okay, that's honestly the writing pattern and the thought process appears to be yours. Hence, I reached out. Can we have this conversation? Now, let's get to the meat of the matter here. You described the YEPC statement as cowardly, unsigned propaganda. Why do you think such documents still find their way into public discourse in 2025? That's on one plan. On the other, why do you think that since after the 2023 presidential election, there appears to be so much ethnic tension in Nigeria, especially amongst the Yorubas and the Igbo in Lagos? Why do you think this is so?
Well, I don't know where it came from, but obviously from the political quarters. That's my suspicion. Hall had been well in Lagos way before now. At a stage, the news or the genia for winning election in Lagos was inclusivity. If you're familiar with Lagos, at season of election, you see billboards all over the place talking about the Lagos story. And the Lagos story was about people from other part of the country who came into Lagos and hit it big. So they were the ambassadors of Lagos. And you see their billboard, their pictures, you see their pictures on billboard, and then some of them will come to tell their story. And everybody was excited that Lagos is the place to be, But in 2023, all was well for the election. Everybody was prepared for it. And then we had the presidential election. And whatever the result was behind the curtain says it all. That somebody was losing out of his grip on Lagos. And then they have to devise a means of getting even. And then we saw the propaganda that followed. The Igbo should not come to vote. And some of these statements were made on camera by people we know. The people would tag, Omonile in Lagos. When you say somebody is Omonile, he's more or less a dignified or a debased, level of relating with the area boys, those who owns a particular area. And we saw all of that, and everybody thought maybe it was an empty threat until the election day. And like I said, when we don't stand up for this, anybody, just about anybody, can become a victim of that threat. There was a woman who was attacked with a machete on her face. That woman is not Igbo, she's a Ijaw. You know, most of the people attacked were not even Igbo. You know, once you look like an Igbo man, and I don't know how you want to be able to identify somebody is an Igbo man from somebody who is not, you know, and it was such an embarrassing situation. Now, that gone by, we are now preparing for 2027, and these fellows just came from nowhere talking about the rubbish that they put in the public space. And I was expecting that somebody will respond to it. Nobody responded until another respected father of faith, that I wouldn't want to mention his name, sent the article to me and said, Bolaji, have you seen this? I said, yes, I've seen it. I said, why are you are not saying anything about it? I said, because the document is not signed. He said, that is the reason why you should respond to it. And so I put my pen to paper and responded in the manner that has become a viral phenomenon, for which my Facebook account was taken down because we had over 550 shares of that post on my Facebook alone. So when I saw that, I knew that trouble was coming. So, but the truth of the matter is, we can't run away from this conversation. We necessarily must have this conversation because it's about Nigeria. Now we're talking about somebody who is a Lagosian and who is the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Do you know the implication of his home state sponsoring what we are experiencing in the public space? That the home state of the president does not believe in the unity of the Nigerian Federation? That's an indictment on the president. And so there was a need for us to give it to them so that we can call the attention of the president and everyone that matters to this unfortunate development in the city of Lagos.
Okay, so listening to you, one thing that comes to mind is, you know, you described Lagos in very interesting terms. And one thing that comes to mind is, in recent time, we listened to one of the spokesperson, you know, on strategic communication to the President of the Republic. That is Dr. Daniel Bwala, who recently used the word to describe Lagos as the you know, no man's land. And it has been something that over the years, especially in 2023, that when the election approaches, this narrative of accusing Ndibo, of insinuating that Lagos is a no man's land, in your view, from you being a federalist, you being a nationalist, you being someone, you know, a Democrat that wants every Nigerian to be equal, you know, sitting down here in this conversation, do you think, in the context that people talk about Lagos as being the melting pot of Nigerian nationality, do you think that Lagos in this context is a no man's land?
Well, I will answer your question by asking another question. Do you think that Abuja is no man's land? Of course, in the context of the structure of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Abuja, as of this moment, is no man's land. That's the status of Abuja, because it's the Federal Capital Territory. That is why we call it the FCT. Now, if Lagos was not called FCT, Lagos at a point was the Federal Capital Territory. So if Lagos was at a point Federal Capital Territory, the fact that you have moved Lagos or moved the capital away from Lagos does not strip Lagos of that title. because people had come to be part of Lagos. If we don't even want to go back to the ancient historical part of the Portuguese entrance into Lagos, the declaration of the Lagos colony and the evolution of Lagos colony, even when we have the Northern Protectorate and the Southern Protectorate, Lagos colony was exclusive because it was an administrative headquarter of the colonial master. So when people now want to talk in isolation, or do we go back to the historical settlement of persons who came into Lagos? The Omonedo who came to a place called Eko, and then the Nupe, the Hausa, the Igbos, and everybody streamed into Lagos because of its commercial potentials. People have been in Lagos contributing to Lagos. People have been in Lagos paying tax. Now, I have friends who are born in Lagos from the southeast, who were in Lagos all through the war. Their father was in Lagos. They survived all of the hostility of the war. They've been part of Lagos. In the community where I live in Orile Agege, there's a young man by the name Decline Ihekiri. He's an activist. He was born in Lagos. We grew up in that neighborhood. I wouldn't know how much of his village he knows, but he has been part of the community there, making contribution. Now, how do you come or turn around to tell his children, when even their father was born in Lagos, that they don't belong here? Now, let me give you a picture. I wrote an article recently titled "How Federal is Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital, Kware in Sokoto State." And I wrote that because Kware the advertisement was made public for a new medical director at Kware in Sokoto State. And there's a young man who went to do his residency in Sokoto. And from the time he went through residency, he had been practicing in Sokoto. Today, he's a professor of psychiatric medicine. And this person applied. And the most qualified by my estimation. But because he's from the South, they now have to consider people they said are from Sokoto, but who have lived their entire life making contribution to Kano. I don't get it. You can't build a nation that way. You can't build a nation discriminating against people. I don't know, when you look at the thinking of our political class, when their wife is pregnant, off they go to America, off they go to Canada, off they go to Europe. And the motivation is, once you are born in a place, you are a citizen. They want their children to be citizens in somebody else's country and be able to compete in the future as citizens of that same place. And then this same class of people are agitating the locals through this unhealthy campaign, just so they will have control of the political structure. It is unfair. And the elite should raise their voice.
Okay. I think the internet of my guest is frozen, so we will continue this conversation. It's so far it's been an interesting conversation. The article that he wrote is a masterpiece. Honestly, I read it, and that is the reason why we are having this conversation. Let me see if I can get the article. Let me take a piece from the article. Okay, he's back again. Okay, so you're welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Oh, you're okay. We're no longer your audio. If you may fix your your camera, you're upside down, I believe. Yeah. Thank you very much. So, sadly, that bridged your line of thoughts. Now, let me, I appreciate the way you answered that question. Let me come back to some of the content of, that letter, or rather, the unsigned letter. There has been this argument that the Igbo presence in Lagos is provocative, in quote. In your words, is it lawful, not provocative? Could you expand on why this narrative is both false and dangerous? So why would, because the way I look at it is, if an ethnic group is singled out and said that their presence in Lagos is provocative, then you gave an example of politicians going to other countries and birthing their children so that they become citizens of that place. But we have, for instance, other nationalities who also actually, if you go to the Lekki axis, the new Lagos, or rather the Eco Atlantic, we know of a specific nationality that has almost the biggest part of that estate. And some Nigerians will argue, and this is not provocative, why would a presence of a particular ethnic nationality in Lagos be provocative then, in this sense? Your take?
I think describing any ethnic nationality as being provocative in the context of any society is just giving a dog the bad name in order to hang it. Now, in context, the existence of the blacks in America is provocative. Will you agree with me? When you look at what the reaction had been to a black man, whether he's doing the right thing or not, some persons are just mad. We can remember the event that went viral of the policeman kneeling on the neck of a black man who was crying, "I can't breathe." We saw
That's
everything on camera that led to that unfortunate incident. Was the black man provocative? The black man wasn't provocative. If there was anything at all, if any one of them was provocative at all, he was the white man. But you see, when we don't address issue for what they are, and we look for easy excuse to sustain them, we will be promoting unhealthy human behavior, like we have seen in Lagos. Competition is normal, especially when you have the kind of population that we have. It is now the responsibility of those who are the leader of the society to ensure that they devise means of making that competition healthy. What we are seeing in Lagos is competition. Permit me to use the word the sibling rivalry. Sibling rivalry. There are peculiarity between me and my brother. There are areas where we don't agree. There are competition from time to time between us, but that does not stop our father being our father. That does not stop us from being siblings. That does not stop us from advancing the cause of the family. If we understand the family tree, we should bring that to bear on the structure of our public life, and let the Igbo man in Lagos, the Ijaw man in Lagos, the Yoruba man in Lagos, the Ron man in Lagos, let everybody come to understand that the father of all is Nigeria, and we all are siblings. And then we can create healthy competition to encourage the growth and development of our society. Not that we'll be pursuing exclusive, or rather exclusivity agenda of cutting off a particular tribe and giving them a bad name. People sell land and the Igbo man buy land. I ask in context of what is going on in Plateau State, where in quotes, some persons will just come into the ancestral land of some people and kill the people and take over their land. They didn't pay no dime. And that is being sustained up there in the north, and nobody is calling those people provocative. The system is tolerating them. Nobody is calling what they are doing what it is. It is criminal. But we look for, diplomatic political language to describe genocides and tolerate it. And then the Igbo man just want to live in Lagos, do his business. And because by the position of the Constitution of Nigeria, he has the right to vote and be voted for. But what was the outcome of the last local government election? The fact is in the open for all of us to know that Lagos, as it stands today, is a one-party state. The foundation for an unfortunate emergence of what I tag war, as some people call for my head, what we are breeding now may become a full-blown war in 2027 if we don't address it.
Now, in 1999, and especially, and I think it peaked in 2007 election, 2011 election, we saw multiple parties that reflected, the spirit and the accommodating nature and the cosmopolitan nature of Lagos. Vis-a-vis those periods aforementioned, just opposing it to your last comment of Lagos becoming a one-party state. Not only a one-party state, a one-party state and a one ethnic, ruling class. I feel slightly uncomfortable because understanding you at the beginning you mentioned about children born in a particular place and they know that place as their only place. I had an argument with someone when I highlighted that if, for instance, I am from Anambra State and I am elected the House of Rep for Alimosho, and it's not ethnic because that's the place I've lived probably all my adult life, a place I pay tax, a place my kids live, and the place I'm going to represent, because I'm not going to take the constituency project of Alimosho and take it down to my village, or I will go to Abuja and I will raise my hand and say, oh, Mazes, okay, I'm no longer representing Alimosho, I'm representing Agwata or whatever. It doesn't make sense that, vis-a-vis that people would begin to fight such. Now, you also mentioned about 2027. The question therefrom will be, isn't that something worrying that we are likely to walk into this trap with our eyes wide open? In this case, you called for and you said if this is not addressed, and I asked, how do you think this can be addressed if those fanning that are those who have the legal and the constitutional right to address it? How do you think we can get out of this?
Well, I think one of the major problems we have in Nigeria is our elite class. If everybody in the elite class will speak to it and speak against it, those who are perpetrating it will have a rethink. If men and women that has name in this country will speak to it, but they must come to terms with the fact that it's our collective shame as Black people, is our collective shame that Obama became president in America and an Igbo man cannot be governor in Lagos is a shame, a big shame to us. And whoever is fanning that narrative should come to terms with modern civilization. And it's mundane, it's archaic to think that somebody is in a place, contributing to the place, and is not a criminal, and then you say because of his color, which the black man now has overcome in America, and the context of our own society, because of his ethnicity, it cannot be. No. Why is it that when we are assembling the football team for the country, the Falcons just came back from the Nations Cup with gold medal, and they were arranged to go greet the president? Look at the picture taken. Most of those girls were Igbos. And I would have expected that the president would say, okay, because you are Igbo, you are not fit to represent, or because you are Igbo, you are not going to have a share of what we are giving you. When it comes to honor and glory, we don't remember tribe. But when it comes to mundane politics, then we want to debase the dignities of individuals on the basis of their ethnicity and say that they cannot compete. No, it's not done. I first heard this idea about land ownership coming from the Speaker of Lagos State. That was shortly after the 2023 election. He was reacting. Now it's about time that they have to promulgate laws in Lagos that forbid non-indigens from owning land. And I said, where are these people coming from? How in the world will this personality be speaker for the city and state of Lagos? I think the problem we have is it comes at a cost. I don't want to digress, but many times when I write, the reactions are threats. You get calls and people start threatening your life. And you know, some of these elites, at the slightest threat, they are back in their cocoon. And that is the strength of these people. If we all decide to stand up today and say, it's supposed to be a failure, and that is what it's going to be. And by the law of the land, every Nigerian is free to live and do business anywhere. So what's the problem? That's the law that is guiding us, our existence as of today as a nation. And there shouldn't be any deviation from it. We all have to stick to that.
Now, there is one critical point here. The YEPC proposal, or rather, in that proposal, it puts forward to reduce the C of O for non-Yorubas from 100 years to 25 years. And this, I believe, you also lend your voice and said that this is unconstitutional. Why do you see this as a form of ethnic appetite?
It is what it is. It is what it is. Why Lagos? Of all the states in the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Lagos is a frontline state. Lagos should be one of the most civilized states that we have in this country. Now, and then somebody is coming to propose that to the state of Lagos, and we are not worried? No, people like that want to bury Lagos. Lagos has gone past that. When I was in secondary school in the 80s, and you need to see people coming from different parts of the nation who couldn't afford education, because education was free in Western Nigeria, particularly in states that were being controlled by Unity Party of Nigeria, UPN. And a classmate who came from far just to have benefit of education, free education. The state didn't discriminate against them. Once you come into school, you are registered. You are given free book, free exercise book. Some of those persons have become medical doctors. Some of those persons have become all kinds of professionals. And they are making contribution to Lagos because Lagos opened its doors to people to benefit from the opportunity. And many of them are now contributing, adding back value to Lagos. There's a particular young man who was already, who had already learned, what do you call it, welding, you know, iron welding as his profession, and was already practicing before they declare free education. He left his state and then came to be part of that in Lagos. And today, he is gone to Europe now, well-learned, chartered accountant, qualified in Europe, practicing and adding value. That is what Lagos was when I was growing up. And I won't watch and allow some persons to give Lagos a picture that doesn't belong to Lagos. Lagos is indeed no man's land. Lagos is the land of opportunity. Lagos is a place you come to blow. And we have seen people coming into Lagos and blowing up. And all of that is to the glory of Lagos. And we must not allow people to demean the glory of the states for mundane politics.
Okay. Now, let me come to some of the points you made in your submission. You know, let me start by standing on the subject of citizenship and belonging. You said that land is sacred. Yes, we all know that. But citizenship is sacrosanct. How do we reconcile the tension between cultural heritage and constitutional rights as concerned the topic we are now discussing?
Well, it's simple. It is when people want to be mischievous that we try to complicate simple matters. Citizenship is what the Constitution bestows on us. Ancestry is what birth, genealogy, whatever it is, you know, bestow on us. I'm a Yoruba man by ancestry. I am a Nigerian as a citizen.
Yeah.
And we shouldn't mix this up. Nobody is asking you to stop being a Yoruba man. Nobody is asking you to stop being an Igbo man. But what we are saying is, within a constitutional democracy, the tenet is clear. And the tenet support citizenship, not indigenization. Every time you ask people for state of origin, you are insulting their citizenship. And I think that should stop. If we want to make progress, it should stop. Now, we've been clamoring for the reform of the Constitution, vis-a-vis the situation where regional government is supported, or let me say the component of federating state is empowered. And when you say that, a lot of people want to argue. And I don't understand the basis of the argument. In 1959, when Nigeria was truly a federating state, the budget, the federal budget for 1959 was 50 million pounds. Whereas the southwest or western Nigeria ran a budget of 55 million pounds. The budget of a region was bigger than the budget of the federation. Now, these are the kind of LD competition that we need to promote. I don't have the record of what the budget of Southeast was in 1959. I will have put it forward. But I bet if it's not more than that of the federal government, it will be close to that of the federal government. Now, compare that, this indigenization mentality. Compare that now away from the federal structure. Compare that to the situation we have now, where every state have to head for Abuja, wait, and then something is shared into their bowl as if they are Almajiri to go back, and then somebody is telling us your governors are collecting more money. Who wants our governors to collect money from the federal government? No, we are saying let's free the region, let's free the component. And when they bring up this kind of debate, it is to stop us from advancing into nationhood. Nigeria is a country. Our dire need now is to become a nation. And we can only become a nation when you have a united front. When everybody is free to live and add value wherever they find themselves.
Okay. The budget of the Eastern region as of 1959 was 13.35 million pounds then. Now, I do understand, the position you've taken on this in terms of the citizenship, and understanding that there is, and as you pointed out, you have the ancestry and citizenship. Now, but if we stay on that, then I'll ask again. You also argue that the certificate of origin is a certificate of exclusion. Then should that then be that Nigeria should scrap this certificate of origin, or as you rightly said now, you call this certificate of, or rather you call this state of origin? Recall that when Pastor Tunde Bakari wanted to run with Muhammad Buhari, I believe that was in 2011. One of the propositions that he put forward, saying that if they win that election, this is this is one of the things that they will do, is to scrap the concept of state of origin and and replace it with the state of residence. Now, the APC 2015 reform document also had that in its content. But now, 10 years down the line, the whole conversation is buried. Nigerians are still being asked their state of origin in every single document that they fill. Now, what do you think? Do you think, we are really going down the wrong lane? How do we get back on track? Because, looking at it, those that we have in the National Assembly as well, they've done multiple constitutional rejigging, reform, yet the core element in that constitutional redesign or rejig is not being touched. Your take, sir?
Well, I think it's rather unfortunate that the elite class, like I said earlier, will take us through this route. When you are thinking of the bigger picture, you are thinking of true federation. We have seen that every time they want to
I think some calls are probably disrupting your network connection. You may. Okay. I think maybe some calls are disturbing his network connection. Let me quickly while this is frozen, I believe he will come back as quick as possible. Let me quickly see if I can take some of the excerpt from his writing, which I found very, very profound, and which also forms the backbone of this conversation. Now, I read here. He says, "Save for okay." He hold on. He's back. Sorry, you were yanked up before. Now you're back. So go ahead with your thoughts.
Okay. Now, because they need to appeal to those who are the receiving end of this indigenization ideology, then you see them talk big about it. But they will also go back to their tribe and initiate a propaganda that will keep them rooted. And when you look at the history, the political history of Nigeria, particularly the era of Obafemi Awolowo, the era of Nnamdi Azikiwe, the era of Mike Opara, the era of Ahmadu Bello, the era of Tafawa Balewa, they were strongly rooted in tribal politics. And it's unfortunate that the generation they produce are still carrying the same ideology. It is however embarrassing to me that people in my generation who have seen Europe, who have seen America, who have seen Canada, who have seen how the world is running, will come back, excite their tribe with hate because of politics, and then when they stand on the rostrum, they're saying something different. The ordinary man on the street is waiting for direction. They are not the ones sponsoring this ideology. It is whatever they give to them that they will run with. The day the political class are interested in building Nigeria, that is the day hatred will stop. But for now, it is turn by turn. When it is your turn, you build your tribe. When it is my turn, I build my tribe. And so nobody is building Nigeria. And so if tomorrow is the turn of the Igbo man, and the Igbo man now decide that all of the development contract should be taken to the Southeast, we had a president who specifically receiving international donor, telling them, please concentrate all you have to do in Nigeria to the north.
Yeah.
So now what are we now saying? That is the problem we have is the political class. I don't know how I'm going to help them. I don't know how we can help them, you know, but until they are helped, the people will be snared in this hate syndrome.
Quite profound, honestly, because this is, listening to you, that's indeed a tragedy. But let me come to this, still staying on some of your postulations. On lineage and belonging, you pointed out that contribution must be contributions must matter more than ancestry. How can Nigeria practically shift from broadline politics to contribution-based citizenship?
Well, it's important. Thank God that at least we have now a government that is a tax collector, and we see everything being geared towards tax. At least there will be record of the contribution that individuals are making. And in Europe and America, you have tax exemption for certain level of contribution that individual has made. I hope that we put that also into the restructuring of our tax administration, so that when it is Ezeoke that is the biggest taxpayer in the Dumota, we get to know. When it is Yaya that is the biggest tax contributor in Agege, we get to know. Now, once we start having information like that, some of these persons who had been discriminated against will begin to even stand up, because they now can quote, this is the figure of my contribution, and then we put it in the public space. And then how do you now tell me that this person who hasn't even, in most times, who are not even faithful to their tax, you know, have a say over the community more than I do? What we are saying is, once we become civilized in our tax collection, tax administration, tax accounting, tax transparency, and we have clear record of every citizen and the contribution they are making, this whole idea of Omonile we fizzle out, because the real Omonile is the person making contribution for the land to develop, not the person selling his father's property. So I think that is one area we need to look into and address promptly.
Okay. So many insist that indigenous rights must be protected against strangers. You counter that argument that the real stranger is injustice. Now, how should states protect culture without crossing into discrimination? Obviously, we all know that states, and regions, and they have cultures, and how could this in protecting the state culture and without necessarily crossing the border into discrimination? How do you think that could be done?
Well, is interesting. From the structure of our local communities in ancient time, the land was not the property of the government, because there were ethnic boundaries, and within a particular territory, the land, for example, in the Southwest, some of the Southwest community belonged to the king. Culturally, land in Yoruba tradition belongs to the king. Culturally, traditionally,
I don't know. Your network is playing up again. If you can hear me, you may have to leave and come back again, and let's see if it gets better. Your network is disturbing again. Sorry about that. Your network. I know you will quickly come back in now, so let's wait for that. So yes, I was saying that your network got frozen again. I don't know if your DND is still on, because for some reason.
No, my DND is still on, perfectly on.
Okay, so go ahead.
So what I'm saying is, how come we have accepted that our kings no longer have control, and we are not accusing the government of eroding our culture, our tradition? But when it comes to somebody from somewhere coming to dwell in our community, and this person want to do business, this person want to practice politics, then we remember that we have a culture and we have a tradition. No, I don't get it. We are just not being true to ourselves. If the constitution can successfully take the land off the hand of our Kabiesis, and when you say Kabiesi in Yoruba, you say it's unquestionable. But the constitution came and questioned their authority and took their father's land from them, and heaven has not fallen.
Mm-hmm.
People should stop behaving like we can't read and understand the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Mm. Okay,
we should read them and apply them to our lives.
Correct. So you emphasize that Lagos has always thrived on inclusion, and you noted that from Nupe traders to Brazilian returnees. Why then is there a resurgent push for exclusionary politics now? I visited this question before, anchored it on 2023, but some argue that it has, gone on before 2023, but 2023 amplified it. So the question is, why now? What changed?
My brother, the answer is very clear. The answer is in the result of the 2023 presidential election. And some persons are afraid. You see, and it's unfortunate that they will toe that line.
Mm.
Because if I were them between 2023 and now, I know what I can do politically. I know programs that we can initiate between then and now that will have given the tribe they are afraid of a sense of belonging and support for my political ideology. How you want to silence the other ethnic nationals in Lagos, I don't know. They are obviously in the majority. The Igbos, the Ijaws, the Edos, the non-Yoruba speaking are in the majority. The pattern of 2023 election show that. And democracy is a game of number. So instead of acting against the number, why don't you engage with the number? That is what they are supposed to do. They are not. Lagos across Satellite Town, Lagos across Amuwodofi, Lagos across Oshodi's Hollow, Lagos across Ifakojayi, Lagos across Aja, Lagos across Ibejuleki, Lagos, everywhere you go, you see teeming crowd of people who are not Yoruba. How you are going to face them in 2027? And all you can devise against them is hatred. I pray that these people will not organize themselves together. I pray that they do not attempt to resist the humiliation, the harassment, and the hostility being packaged. Because if they do, then we are going to have a war on our hand instead of an election. No. But we can still save the day. We can save the day by engaging with the people. We can save the day by setting up town hall meetings where we discuss this issue. The general saying is that a problem discussed is half solved.
Yeah.
But if you don't want us to talk about it, they will be there lingering. And when they finally explode, may God save all of us. I expected that by now, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu will have put up a town hall meeting to meet with the Igbo communities and talk to them instead of removing street signboard of all the streets that has Igbo name, asking the local government chairman they just elected to go and remove that. Is that how to develop a state? No. You just woke up one day and said, okay, Charlie Boy bus stop is no longer Charlie Boy bus stop. It is now Olamide Bado. And when you look at the sentiment of the name Olamide Bado, because of the emotion of how the young man was was killed or he died. And the crowd that had been milling around it, they feel, okay, we can use that to erase Charlie Boy. They don't know that Lagos is a state of justice. If you enter a bus from Oshodi plying that road, the moment you get to the place, in spite of all the big name they have, the people of Lagos will say, Charlie Boy, wow. So who are you deceiving? Themselves, of course. We have a problem. Let's sit down and talk and learn how we're going to live together and how we're going to build Lagos together. There's no shortcut to building Lagos other than giving everybody a sense of belonging.
That's very profound. There is no shortcut to how to build Lagos other than giving everyone a sense of belonging. That's what on the marble. Now, in your rebuttal, you recall that even Igbos once governed Lagos. You know, I think you made reference to Rear Admiral Ndubisi Carlo as a military administrator or even military administrators. Why is this history often forgotten in today's debate? And do you think, from the way we've gone downhill, that such would ever happen again, maybe in our lifetime?
Oh, my brother, that is if it doesn't happen in 2027. You are talking about our lifetime. Let's come take the demography of Lagos. If I want to embarrass the power that be in Lagos, I will jeer an Igbo man to step into, because that is what democracy is all about. If we need to prove this point once and for all, let's prove it. Let's get an Igbo man into the race. Not because he's an Igbo man, but because he's competent and qualified.
Because he's a
And let's put them on the campaign platform. And let's see how many of his people want to support him, and how many people are intelligent enough to know that one of the ways to solve our Lagos problem is to allow another tribe to rule Lagos.
But even Rose Vival has been accused of being Chinedu Igbo. So even Rose Vival, who is also an indigenous Lagosian, has somewhat been classified as not being Yoruba enough to govern Lagos.
Well, I sympathize with Rose Vival, and maybe that is the reason I'm very vocal. My children share paternity between my state, Ogun, and of course, the state of Delta. Now, you can imagine they were born in Lagos, they grew in Lagos. I don't know, maybe okay, maybe only my first daughter have been to Delta before. I'm not sure the others have been there. And then tomorrow they want to be councillor in Odile Agege or councillor in the Fakojai where we live now. And then you say, okay, Omo Igbo ni, you people are Omo Igbo because their mother is from. It's silly. There's just no two ways about it than for us to rise and condemn this and allow people who are Lagosians. How many of the people who have governed Lagos are actually Lagosians in the true sense of the word Lagosian? How many of them? Some of them migrated from, we know the ancestral home of Mr. President. He's from Iragbiji in Osun State. He governed Lagos. He has used the paternity of Lagos to enshrine himself in Nigerian politics. And today is our president. Nobody is quarreling over that. But please don't make it look as if opportunities are meant for certain individuals and should be closed against others. No. Let there be a level playing ground. Let everybody run according to their strength. And let be transparent about who the winner is. And whoever the winner is, let's give the trophy to the individual. Lagos should be a pace-setter state. Unfortunately, we describe Lagos as the state of excellence. And I don't see the excellence in bigotry. I don't.
That's a quotable tweet. No excellence in bigotry. You also highlighted that icons like Chief Obafemi Awolowo and late Chief Lateef Jakonde, who championed inclusivity. What lessons should Lagos leaders of today learn from these heroes of the past?
Well, the lesson we should learn from them is the true spirit of leadership exemplified by these two people. The story of Awolowo was told to me by my father. I was born in 1966, so there's no way I will have had a first-hand experience of all of the good program of Awolowo. But I entered secondary school in 1979, the year that BC Onabanjo became the governor of Ogun State, and Jakonde became the governor of Lagos State. I began secondary school at Christ Apostolic Church Grammar School, Iperuremo, in 1979. I spent a year there, and then moved on to Lagos Baptist Secondary School, Orile Agege, the best secondary school anybody can attend in the whole wide world. With Chief M. Ho Halake, the father, late though, but the father of Dele Alake, who was such an inspiration in leadership to us as students. And Jakonde, at that time, as the governor, his son attended Maryland Comprehensive. The daughters, too, attended Government College, Agege. Both were public school. So Awolowo doesn't have to go on a visit. Jakonde doesn't have to go on a visit to any school to know how well his education policy was performing. Right under his roof, every day when his children are back from school, he can tell the quality of education that his policies were delivering to his own children. Today, our leaders don't use public facilities. That is one of the major problems that we have. The facilities they don't use. They don't use our hospital. Their children don't go to our school. They don't even know how their policies are performing, because when anything is wrong, they're out of the country. I think the lawmakers should gang up together, but maybe Nigerians should gang up together to effect what I call legislative revolution network, wherein we send people truly from among us to go and represent us. The people representing us now are not from among us. The people representing us now are not from among us. They are representing themselves. We need to change the tide. We have to elect people. I think people who will represent us must take a vow, a covenant with us that they will use public facility. Once that is done, you see that our facilities will begin to work. And Nigeria will be better for it.
I think that idea was once tested, and obviously everyone in that chamber, obviously you knew that it didn't fly, and that was it. Now let's we are rounding up now. Let's look at the way forward, and again recapping on what you wrote in response to this document by the YEPC. Then on one of the questions that borders, I know you've somewhat touched on it, but let's now, in our concluding part, look at this critically. Let's look at the residency versus indigenship. You asked whether a tax-paying legation of 20 years is less loyal than someone who left long ago but claims indigenship. How can policy reflect reality, in your view?
Well, I saw recently a public communication issued by the chairman of Orile Agege local government. And I'm using Orile Agege local government because that's the local government where I grew up. That's the local government I knew. That's the local government where my secondary school is. That's the local government I became an adult. And it's a local government that is dear to my heart. Now, he issued a public communication of a health program for pregnant women and who will be delivering, and the support that the local government is going to be giving them. And in one of the requirement is a Lagos State residency something registration.
Mm.
And he said in bracket, if you have it. So I sent a message to him. I said, my chairman, that clause should be compulsory because residency for the first time on a local government program is being placed as a precondition, meaning that whether you are Igbo, whether you are Hausa, whatever tribe you are from, you are entitled to it once you are a resident in the local government. Yes. And I think it's the right step forward. And I'm so proud that that is coming from my own local government in Lagos. You know, I think we need to encourage residency registration the way it's been done in Lagos, but not to use it against any tribe, not to use it to find bigotry, but for distribution of resources and opportunity. Once we can do that at the local government level, there will be confidence of the general populace on the program of the government, and then we will see a better community going forward.
Mm. Brilliant, brilliant. Some Nigerians defend exclusion in Lagos by saying the East and the North do the same. You called this in your postulation, you called it hypocrisy. Now, should Lagos set the national standard instead of copying bad example, if at all it's been done elsewhere?
Well, that's an opportunity that I expected Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu to embrace. You know, if Tinubu is going to win 2027 election, it is how people are treated in Lagos that will determine that, not the campaign slogan, not the impression being created by APC anywhere in Nigeria. For example, what is the population of Igbos in Lagos? If the Igbos in Lagos are connected to their people at home, they will ask them, how is Lagos? What will be their report of Lagos? The Hausas in Lagos, across Sabu, Obalende, Agege, and all over the place, they are in excess of, they runs into millions. Now, if each one among them is connected to just 3 people, that is 3 million across the country, and they are talking and they are discussing Nigeria, and they are telling you what they are facing in Lagos, and you expect them to vote for the man in Lagos, they are demarketing their brother. That's it. Somebody need to tell it to their face. You are demarketing this man. If Emiloko got him the job, which we all know was not what got him the job in 2023, will Emiloko sustain the job in 2027 with what Nigerians are going through? Obviously not. So it's about time Lagos should wake up and attend to the needs of Lagosians, irrespective of where they are from. northeast, north central, northwest, southeast, south, wherever they are from. Once they are in Lagos, they are Lagosians. Once they are resident in Lagos, it is the responsibility of the state to cater for them and give them a sense of belonging. If we do that within the space of 1 year, and the story is changing, you will see the acceptance, the growth in the acceptance of the man at the center. But we can't be hostile to people who comes to Lagos and expect them to accept the son of Lagos at the center. Mazi, I'm no longer hearing you.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. So can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay. So I said in the 2023 presidential election, you could hear where the governor of Lagos State was making some not so nice comment, or rather whispering to the ears of the president in a campaign trail, for the president to say certain things that were not too nice about his opponents. I mean, that's clear. The camera captured it. Now, that's on one side, if we hold that there. Now, the question is, the same governor of Lagos State, Sanwo-Olu, has been largely silent on these YEPC documents. Tonight, what is your message to him directly?
Well, I think it's about time we call Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu out on that document. One, because he was mentioned in the document and a demand was placed on him by this group of persons, demanding to use his office to carry out their nefarious intention against the Igbos, and that the office of the governor have not thought it wise to address that document and their demand shows conspiracy, shows that he is in bed with these fellows. And whatever happens to the Igbos in 2027 or any other minority group that is not Yoruba in Lagos, the governor, his office, and that group should be held responsible.
Okay, finally here, this is the final take on this conversation this evening. Finally, if this continues unchecked, do you fear this rhetoric could fuel ethnic, or rather could fuel violence, or even another program? What must civil society, the media, and the ordinary citizens do now to stop these, in my word, tribal madness from becoming state policy?
Well, it's unfortunate that you mentioned civil society. I don't know if we still have any society that is civil, because both the civil society and media practitioner have been bought over.
Wow.
And that is why we see all of the things that is going on, and you hardly see them reported in the mainstream media. Apart from platforms like yours that are largely online, you don't get to read, you don't get to watch. Whatever you watch on the mainstream television are largely tailored, by these same people who are influencing, the dynamics. So it's a point of worry. And I pray that whatever need to be done for our consciousness to be awoken to what we need to do to ensure that we all stay safe in 2027, we will do it. I am not advocating that the Igbos or any other tribe should take law into their hand in Lagos. But, self-protection is still part of the constitutional right of individual. If persons who were attacked in 2023 find a means of protecting themselves and to ensure that they vote in 2027, then we will have a crisis on our hand. So we need to start an enlightenment program now by the civil society and those men and women of good conscience to let them know that this thing is about us electing our favorite candidate. We don't have to go to war. Let the best man rule the state of Lagos. It's a state of excellence. If it's a state of excellence, then why are we not going to allow excellence to come to play, at the procedure that we have to go through, the process we have to go through during election?
Wow. It's been an hour, 20 minutes that I've been with you here, Dr. Citizen Bolaji O Akinyemi. It's been my pleasure to have you as my guest on the State of the Nation on Njenje Media TV. Our conversation has centered around Lagos, land, and the law, defending citizenship against tribal politics. Indeed, it has been an eye-opener, and I must encourage you to keep faith alive and keep speaking up. Because if I do believe, actually, that if we do not speak against injustice wherever we found it, we may, or our kith and kin, may become victims of that which we fail to condemn. Thank you once more for being my guest.
The pleasure here is mine, always. Thank you so much, Mazi, for having me.
Thank you very much. Good night from here. So many of you watching us from on across our social media platform, please, if you haven't subscribed to this platform, by all means do like and share. Good night.